What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Draft NFL Best Ball Show here on RotoGrinders. I am Britt Devine. We've got some new faces. Maybe, you know, we've got some old faces that have reappeared and some that have been working behind the scenes a lot here. We're going to have a fun show. The Best Ball Championship on Draft has launched. $3.5 million, $1 million the first $25 entry. But guys, what's up? We got to start with the boss, right? So we don't get fired. What's up, Dan?
What's up, man? Oh.
No, you're RotoGrinders. This is RotoGrinders.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh.
You're the CEO of RotoGrinders. That's right. It's going good. You know, big announcement today with our friends at PlayDraft. This Best Ball Championship going to have somebody winning $1 million on a best ball team. I can't believe how quickly we've jumped that far. I think, was it like 100K first place last year or maybe 250K, something like that. But it wasn't $1 million. I know that. So a lot of excitement around it. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to win the $1 million on this show. That's the goal.
Yeah, our other CEO, soccer dad, David Kitchen. What's going on, man?
Hey, I'm happy to be here. Kudos to Draft for increasing the overall price.
Oh, man. I just blasted everyone. We started.
Good job, Britt. Good start.
We started. So if you guys didn't get in, you're not going to be able to play on this one, but you can always join more. The show's probably going to go for an hour. We're going to give you things. We're going to give you some analysis. You're going to see Dan make some horrible Jacksonville Jaguar picks, and maybe Jamino might actually bring a little bit of knowledge, right, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's be honest. You said this is new faces. This is basically all old faces right here you got going on this show. But, yeah, I mean, I'm excited. NFL, we're talking for the first time all year, at least I am, and I just got to dig it in probably the most I've done all summer for this show, so I'm excited to get this thing going.
Yeah, and look at you, Fish. You get the first pick of the draft here, Jamino.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of like that because I want to get out of the first round with a running back. And quite frankly, not everyone that you can get stuck with, I think, is a good best ball pick this season.
Yeah, looks like they're saving the best for last in this draft.
I just can't wait to steal your picks every other round, David Kitchen. I'm already excited about the possibility.
Dan, I know some of the picks you probably like, and don't worry. No chance of that happening.
I want to talk kind of the first round. Everyone knows kind of who picks. I got to make sure I don't miss my pick here. But I want to talk more about the rules of this contest because this was a $2 million contest last year. And you had to run like God to kind of win the thing last year. Now it's a $3.5 million prize pool. It's $1 million to first. So I want to go over with the people out there just how do you actually end up winning $1 million on this? So it's the first 12 weeks. You've got to win the league. You've got to have the most points in best ball over the first 12 weeks. Then after that, you get lumped into contests of 24 other people that also won their league, and you've got to finish in the top 3 of those for weeks, 13, 14, and 15. And then if you happen to win all of that, you move on to the final 27 people in the last one. And if you ship that, you win $1 million. So does anyone know how I'm supposed to try to win this thing?
Just basically draft decent, good play. I think the thing is, like, people are going to be coming up with concepts of like stacking your running backs, and I think this is like a large failed GPP tournament where you have to get everything right. Like every one of your picks have to hit home runs, or at least like in the optimal starting lineup for this best ball stuff. So I guess that would be my thing, is that you can't play it safe or conservative in this. Like you can't, like, I don't even think like double stacking like a quarterback with 2 wide receivers. I don't even think that's a good idea in this format.
Jamino, you got any takes on how to win this thing other than running like God, picking good players, and some 17th round pick ends up becoming your starting running back and you ship the whole thing?
Yeah, this is going to sound cheap, but I mean, you definitely want to draft an NFL offense or an NFL team or an NFL spot that outperforms its cost. So I would think that finding the team that is going to outperform its cost relative to the draft by the most is going to be the way. I do like stacking, is what I'm trying to say. I do like trying to stack the team that you think has the biggest gap between the cost and what their end of season output's going to be.
What do you got for me? Come on, spill the beans. Or you got to keep your draft strategy to yourself here.
Cleveland's not cheap, but I mean, I think Cleveland right now is probably the team, right? Even though they're going higher than most people would have ever expected them to go in years past, I just think that offense is absolutely primed to destroy this season. They absolutely bamboozled the New York Giants for Odell Beckham Jr. with Baker Mayfield and a slew of weaponry. And I just think that as highly as they're going to get ranked. I'm not sure that they're going to get ranked highly enough. I'm really high on them.
All right, so I'm gonna go to Dave on this one because this is kind of what I've been doing. I've been practicing. I've been training my whole life the whole season. I'm already basically up to 100 best balls completed with a whole bunch more currently
That's
going.
a lot of balls, best balls.
Yeah, so I like your strategy on the turn there. You took Travis Kelce. This is something last year we saw the people that won, they stack Kelce with Ertz. You get tight end. It's a huge advantage. You really don't have to spend on a tight end now till the 17th or 18th rounds. You're just expecting 15 to 20 fantasy points out of Kelce. Kind of give your thought of taking him so early.
Yeah, I mean Kelce is definitely a first round guy. I think in this format because because the tight end position just basically in general you want to have as much of a competitive advantage over the field. I think Kelce this year, especially if the stuff in Kansas City plays out where he's going to be like a wide receiver one almost, another wide receiver. And then with my second pick, I went with Odell over Mixon. I do like Mixon this year, but I think there's something to be said for an Odell Kelce pairing. Two very high upside guys.
Yeah, you'll have to shot take on running backs. Running backs dry up pretty quickly. If you don't get your running backs by, say, around like 13 or 14, you don't really have a lot of expectation of that guy giving you anything almost all season unless some sort of injury happens. I almost always like to take, at least one running back in my first couple of rounds. So we're going to have to see what your team looks like, David.
Very good.
It's not good. Not good for my team because I took two wide receivers. So thanks, Britt.
Yeah.
I do think in this format, wide receivers are like good wide receivers. Like how many good wide receivers come out just out of thin air? Whereas running backs don't matter. And I think that in this format, if everyone's going running back early, I think it's definitely advantageous to go wide receiver early, tight end early. Although I will say my strategy doesn't make me feel good that Dan followed the same strategy.
I mean, I'm surprised Dan didn't end up with Nick Foles and Leonard Fournette already in the first couple of picks here.
Oh, it's coming. Give it some time.
Everybody's just like completely ignoring Leonard Fournette, and that's fine. I'll get him in like the fourth round or something.
You won't get him in the fourth round. I've been doing he does not go in the fourth round in these. And I would imagine he will not go in the fourth round in this one. Jamino, you started off with Saquon. What are you going to be doing here on the turn?
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping Dalvin Cook would fall to me. I just think that they drafted a running back, but not really high on Alexander Madison whatsoever. Think that he was probably not the right way to go for that team. I don't think certainly he's that talented. So I'm looking at Dalvin Cook to have a really big year. I'm going to go double wide receiver probably on this particular pick here. And I'm going to go ahead and go with Keenan Allen and AJ Green, I think.
I get it.
I'm not real high on AJ Green, and I actually have, Hilton and Cooper like as targets I'm looking to get more often. But when I look at this particular spot, I'd rather get away from the early rounds of the draft knowing that I've got guys who are going to produce for most of the season, provided AJ Green does not get injured for like the 10th straight year.
Keenan Allen and AJ Green just always play every game.
I love
just asking for just to run pure with the injuries there, Jamino.
I mean, look, I don't think this guy's like completely like I don't know. I don't think he's like fragile or anything like that. He has run across a bad string of it, but I think it's the NFL. Guys get hurt. It's happening every single year to, every single position.
Oh, you couldn't take Derrick Henry. You got sniped there, Soccer Dave. So this is going to be interesting. I'm coming up next here, and I want to talk some strategy too. There's all kinds of things, to not only do you have to run pure in the first 12 weeks, you have to run extremely pure in the playoffs. So something I'm kind of looking at, let me make a couple of picks here. A team that has an amazing playoff schedule, by the way, is the Indianapolis Colts. If you're looking to stack up a team, the Colts look pretty good. I think it's like they play in New Orleans, they play Tampa Bay, they play another horrible defense. I'm looking to get some exposure to the Colts for sure in these. It's not like I don't expect Marlon Mack to have a good regular season, but the playoff schedule, if I'm looking ahead, I might as well take someone that theoretically has a good schedule in that too. So I looked at Mack. How do you guys weigh things like that? Chris talked about just picking good players. I'm looking to not only pick good players, but also trying to run a little bit pure in the playoff schedule. Dave, do you have any thoughts on that?
The issue is that sometimes you don't know who the good teams are, who the bad teams are. You just take a stab at it. And someone who we thought, like last year, this team you say like benefited or is going to benefit from a bad playoff schedule. Just think of like what we were saying last year about the Colts, how they had a paper-thin secondary, how they were just all washed-up guys, and people were just going to destroy them through the air. And it didn't happen. So that'd be the only thing is that you if you're targeting teams, I think that you do have to run pure. Just run the teams that you know are going to be bad, like Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm. You're in a good spot here, Dave. I think you kind of lucked out a little bit. There's some running backs if you want them. Are you doing it?
But who are some running backs?
Oh, are you doing zero already?
I don't need no running backs. I mean, I could.
You're just going to be real sorry, I can tell you. I mean, you're going to be the 6th through 10th round is like good luck trying to pick a running back that you think is probably going to have a good outcome. It just gets really dicey, and then later it gets even worse. I actually like I like some of the 11th through like 14th round running backs better than the 6th through 10th.
Well, Brett, if you want to draft my team, you're more than welcome to. But
I'm trying to give strategy to everybody. That's my thoughts. You got your thoughts different?
Yeah, no, like you can say what you don't tell me what I need to do, because then it makes me want to not draft running back out of spot.
That's exactly right. As soon as somebody tells you what to do, you will absolutely do the opposite.
But I did go with Kerryon Johnson. Sony Michel was there, but just with that, again, does New England at the end of the season give you something that you know Sony Michel is going to get like a workload? Like they just drafted another running back with Damian Harris. They've got like 500 running backs there. So I think guys that you're uncertain of their role, especially towards the end of the season, something to consider. However, I also keep in mind you have to win the 12-person league to even get to week 13.
Yeah. I don't think you can worry about the playoffs that much. I mean, you want to, maybe I think the key thing here too is if you're mass multi-entering is to kind of use the portfolio tools that we built to kind of follow along. I think they're actually in the app now where if you've got multiple teams, it'll show you your allocations. And getting a piece of that I think is one thing, but if you're building like 5 teams, that would not be the first thing on the top of my mind. Just build a team, and then once you get to the playoffs, you need a little bit of luck on your side. But hopefully, I mean, injuries are the key. If you don't have guys hurt during that time, you're going to have a better shot than anybody else.
I want to go back to Dave because Dave had the chance to take Patrick Mahomes to pair.
I know, and I almost did to pair with Kelsey.
So Dan took it the next time. So what's your thoughts on sort of stacking, right? You want to run pure? That seems like a good spot to possibly try to do it. And then I want to go to Dan afterwards. And now is Dan going to reach for some guys on Kansas City? We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, I mean, he has obviously the opportunity to go for some cheap upside guys. But all these best ball drafts I've been doing so far this year, you've got some just really good quarterbacks that are lasting now into the 12th and 13th rounds. Yeah. And so I'm not going to give that up. I like having 2 wide receivers, the best tight end, and then a decent running back that if he can get, 3 downs every time with Kerryon Johnson, those are 4 upside guys for me. And then I can get to a comparable quarterback towards the end. Not Patrick Mahomes quality, but a comparable quarterback.
So I didn't love making that pick, just to be very clear, but it was also kind of a panic pick. So.
Yeah, well, you did that, right? Are you going to take a Tyreek Hill? Are you going to take Hardman? Are you going to take Demarcus Robinson? Are you going to reach for them earlier to try to get any sort of correlation going on?
Maybe. I mean, I think there's a chance I'll do that, but now you just clued into the 11 other people a good idea to make sure Dan does not end up getting Nico Hardman, but I mean,
we're all gunning to block you, Dan. That's true.
Jamino just took a couple of guys. I was hoping OJ Howard's one of my favorite targets this year at tight end. He usually goes in the 5th or 6th round. Jamino, I wouldn't say he jumped the gun. I think it's probably a little bit more where he deserves. So I like his pick there. You went with the rookie Miles Sanders too. I think having the first pick, it gives you a lot of different ways to make your team, Jamino. I sometimes find myself going just 4 running backs where I almost would never do that if I didn't have like Saquon, Zeke, or McCaffrey or somebody like that, because you're expecting Barkley to score for you every single week. And if he doesn't, you're probably going to lose anyway. So you get a lot of different ways to make your lineup from the one spot. Kind of go through some of your analysis on that.
So, yeah, you mentioned I got the one spot. I got Barkley. I got that locked-in production, so to speak. And then I wanted to try to play it a little bit safer with my next two pick and play guys with, locked-in roles, no question about what their role is within their offense. If they stay healthy, they're going to be producing most of the season. They might not be the highest upside guys relative to their draft position, but I'm trying to play it safe. Once I get to that 4 or 5 turn there, now I'm going for the gusto. I'm taking O.J. Howard, banking on him ascending, filling that tight end spot that's so hard to fill with a good player later in the draft. And then I've got Miles Sanders, great offense, ascending talent. Philadelphia spent high draft capital on him, feeling like I'm trying to get something that could be closer to an RB1 at a price that's closer to an RB2. So I'm not sure about Miles Sanders. I don't know. I don't think anyone does right now, but I'm just betting on that early in May before maybe something gives us a clue that he could have a huge role this year. We don't really know exactly what that is yet.
I just got sniped on Ridley.
Well, good. But I want to hear from Britt, because you said on Twitter before this that you thought there's an advantage to drafting early instead of waiting, closer to the season through training camps, preseason. I mean, there's a lot of, entries to fill here. So this is probably going to be going up right until, opening Thursday. So why is that?
So I think as time goes, it's just like DFS is a game of skill. As time goes by, ADP is going to get better. People become more in the know as information is more put out there as the NFL season gets closer. So, if you're drafting this, let's say this is still open a couple weeks before NFL, barring you're on the clock during some form of injury, the ADP is probably going to be pretty close to what you would expect. And there's not going to be too many guys that you would expect to be a round or two kind of off an ADP. So I think there are certainly guys like that now. If you put in a little bit of time and the NFL, I think there's a bigger edge right now than there will be in a month. And in a month, there'll be a bigger edge than there will be in 2 months from now. So as everything progresses, unless you're on the clock when some starting running back goes down with an ACL injury and you happen to get his backup, that's probably about the biggest edge you can get is by drafting as early as. Maybe not today because it just got launched, but in a week when it slows down a little bit and all the really sharp people kind of calm down just a smidge, the sooner the better, in my opinion. Anyone else?
I think, let's be honest, some of it depends on injuries as well. If you draft early on, there are some guys that like you might not be getting a lot of value for if they get injured, whereas towards the end, your draft is completely different based on the injuries that's going to happen during the offseason.
Yeah,
so you have to avoid those landmines.
If let's say like Penny or Chris Carson get hurt preseason, right? Whoever you have now is a value, but after that happens, there's going to be no more value on drafts. So it's better to draft early because injuries can work against you, but you got to get you got to run so pure to win the thing anyway. I'm looking to invest early, and hopefully the injuries come out on my side is basically my thoughts.
Hey, what are your guys' thoughts on Darius Guice this season? Because everyone is just poo-pooing on him.
You overpaid for sure in the fantasy league we're in together.
Yeah. And in fact, I made a dynasty trade for him for DJ Moore, and I just drafted DJ Moore than Guice. I mean, I like them both, but I think Guice, the more and more his ADP falls, the more and more I like him because, especially in this format, if they ease him into it, he might be getting to work towards the end of the season. Now, I get all of the reasons why he has red flags, but that's exactly. I mean, last year he was going 3rd round as a rookie. He's full participant in practices. I think he has high upside, and he would be one of those against the fantasy expert think picks that I like. I'm a Guice truther this year.
I don't mind it if you would have drafted strong running backs to start with, because screw
that. Like, no, he's the guy that you want. Like this is not play it safe. This is not making love with your underwear on, Brett. This is this is explicit drafting.
That is the worst comp you could have come up with, right? Really?
No, but that's what we say. That's like the 2-3 condom play, and we don't need that. We need a super sexy play, and that's what Guice is.
I think he's a play that will help you later in the year more so than earlier in the year. So my fear for you is by taking him without other strong running backs, you won't be able to get to the playoffs because your scores will be just outside of what you need.
Fair enough.
That's my kind of one fear on someone like that. So if I had Barkley, right, and then I had maybe one more running back and Geist, and I had a tight end and a wide receiver, I think I'd be more apt to do it somewhere like that.
Yeah. Well, this is a 12-person draft, Brett. So, like, you don't get to draft everybody one.
Listen, if you do it, so I don't even know how many of these I'm going to end up doing. I might even do one more as soon as we're off the show today. But I don't think you putting one into this, I mean, sure, you can win, but this is something I think you'd want to put multiple entries into for sure, I would imagine. Correct?
And just to be real clear, too, for people who are watching, I am pretty confident that Draft's going to have a lower dollar version of this and a higher stakes version of this. So, like, if you're looking at it and you're like $25 a pop, and you're a lower stakes guy, this might not be your deal. Don't panic. Last year they had one, I think it was $3 entry.
Yep. It was like a 5 or something like that.
Yeah. And then, of course, a higher stakes one. So that is a smaller field. So Draft, they didn't roll those out today, but pretty confident they're going to have them. So, again, if you're a micro player, don't worry. They'll have something for you.
By the way, I almost took Hunter Henry, and he didn't go until like 9 picks later into the 6th round. Corey Davis, Hunter Henry, Alshon Jeffrey. Those are some high upside guys at the end of the 6th round.
Corey Davis has high upside. This is the Tennessee hat speaking there, Kitchen.
High upside for almost a 7th round pick. Yes, he is a high upside guy. If he has a quarterback that can fill his fingers, people that are sleeping on the Titans because of last year, I can't wait to punish them.
But AJ Brown's the better player, so just letting you know.
I just think it's going to be a completely different offense. And guys like
why would it be a different offense? Why do you think they're going to make crazy changes to their offense that got them to the playoffs a year ago? And
they didn't make the playoffs last year.
Did they not make the playoffs last year?
No,
I thought they did.
No, they didn't. So but they did ride Derrick Henry basically as far as they could go. And obviously he did have some good games.
I'm sorry, man. I'm still in depression that we didn't make it a year ago.
Yeah. So he rolled over the Jags. Derrick Henry's gonna be great, but I just think this offense as a whole, Delaney Walker is gonna be back. You've got AJ Brown obviously on one side. Like, you've got the best slot receiver that was available that they got. There's no reason they upgraded the offensive line. There's no reason for this offense to be bad this year. If the offense is bad this year, then Mariota is bad. If not, I think that they're giving him every chance to succeed this year if he can stay healthy.
I'm doing I've normally been taking the tight ends, trying to get one of probably like the top 6. I think there's a pretty significant edge of, after the Hunter Henry, even like the Jared Cooks, I think you're really kind of dart throwing the rest of the way down. Wasn't able to get
Roger Goodell just sniped me on Hardman. That's exactly what just took place right
now. He was listening to the show, obviously.
Clearly.
I mean, he's definitely reached on Anderson and Hardman, if you ask me a little bit. He's got your boy Fournette too. You should just offer him up to change teams with him after the show.
I like it.
Does anyone have a wider range right now than like Hardman? Like, Hardman could be like a complete stud, and he could be like DeAnthony Thomas or something. Like, I don't know if we actually have that locked down.
He could also just play like 8 games or not even, because who even really knows what's going to happen with Tyreek Hill, right? Like, none of us like Tyreek Hill, right, as a person. But fantasy-wise, none of us actually know what's going to happen.
I'm not drafting him because I have more morals than everybody else.
Ooh. Playing the moral card.
Yeah, of course.
How long does the speed last? I'm not saying Hill's going to decline in speed this season, but this is the kind of player that like as soon as he's not fast anymore, he's not going to be any good. Like, even if he's not like a step faster than everyone else, even if he's just regular fast, like, when does he? At what point? I'm just not a huge. I understand he's explosive until he's not. Like, I would have taken him high. I would have had faith in him this year if he was available. But like, he's just not the kind of player that I even would be all that enthused to draft most times. He's just like a rare talent. And as soon as that speed goes away, it's not going to be there. And I just don't know, how many, if he's not here for 8 games this year, like, are people going to overdraft him next year? Like, I don't know. I guess it depends what he does, but I don't love Tyreek Hill. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Got sniped on Kirk there. I'm probably going to reach on Austin Hooper, but I think he's basically the last of the safe tight ends here. And I want to get some production at tight end. So I'm going to reach a smidge on Hooper here. Smidge.
I think that was, I don't know, Austin Hooper. I mean, admittedly, the position isn't great, but I think you could have waited on that.
I think Vance was probably the last of that tier.
Yeah. I just didn't, I mean, everything the rest of the way is question marks of production.
Yeah. But, I mean, what's the difference between Austin Hooper and Chris Herndon?
Well, exactly. I mean, I know I'm going to get 2 more games out of Austin Hooper.
All right. And meanwhile, I made the pick of Royce Freeman. He's another one of those guys that was drafted last year. ADP was really high. Obviously disappointed. Philip Lindsay came out of nowhere. But you already have some of the Broncos beats saying that he might lead the team in carries. He's looked great so far. Obviously, they spent a lot of draft capital on him last year. So he's another one of these mid-round running backs that I think offer a high opportunity upside if you go for a wide receiver early.
Yeah, you have those wrist injuries, right, with running backs like Lindsay. Those are that's what kept David Johnson out for a long, basically like the whole season the one time, and it really seemed to hamper. So that is a little bit of a red flag on Lindsay, who I believe you traded for Philip Lindsay, correct?
I did, but I also have Royce Freeman.
Yes,
I wanted this is in our Dynasty Super Bowl or Super Flex Best Ball League, so I wanted both. Yes. Jimino, I want to know like how you are factoring in, or how you think the edge is factoring in offenses. I know you're on the clock with 2 picks here, so maybe Britt can answer that. As far as new offenses go, like you say you got sniped on Kirk. Do you think that people are actively like taking into account that some of these offenses may be dramatically different?
Well, I got sniped on Kirk because, one, he's been going much later. In the recent ADP update, he kind of shot up there. So, you used to get him in the 10th round and the 11th round, and you'd get Butler and Isabella, in the 14th rounds. And every ADPs of anybody that's good just keeps moving up and up and up. That's kind of why you want to draft early. But I don't know, they're supposed to be passing the ball a lot, right? Isn't that the air raid offense? That sounds good. Give me Kirk.
4 wide receivers out. I mean, they've got it's going to be a completely different offense in the past, and you've got
sounds
other
good.
Changes as well. Jimino, you want to comment on that after you make this pick?
Yeah, actually, in my head, I was just going to pull this caper on my last pick there, where I was going to take Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk, and then I was going to swoop back the next round and go ahead and grab Kyler Murray and just really have like a Cardinal stack. That's an example of one of those offenses that, I know people are they're catching on to this now. They're having some faith that they can have a much better team this season and be an explosive offense. And I do think that, grabbing a team like the Cardinals is one of those ways to get that edge, where if you can get their guys for cheap, and all those assets are cheap, usually you're getting Kirk, like Britt said, a little bit later than he just went. You could, especially if I could have done that, that double stack there, that would have been ideal. Now, my only concern there with all those receivers is they drafted a couple of guys too, and I don't know where Isabella, and Hakeem Butler are going to slot in there, but I really do like that offense in general as one of those teams that you can get with higher upside than their cost.
Quarterbacks are starting to go off. This is a little bit sharper of a crowd. I've been doing a lot of the $5 and the $1 best balls for fun, just getting a lot of volume in. The quarterbacks seem to be lasting a little bit longer here, and I think for good reason, like David said at the top of the show. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in the later rounds. I'm gonna
in the midnight. Brett, you're on the clock right now.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to decide what I want to do here.
While you're choosing who to pick, as far as I think also, like, just depending on offenses, like I know it's like there's obviously talent gaps with players, but depending on offenses, especially with these late rounds, where guys like Darrell Henderson, right? Like the Memphis running back who, if this Gurley injury or arthritis is something like major, like he could step into a major role, or guys like Carlos Hyde that were just picked that, go at the end of the 9th round. If he becomes the feature back there for Kansas City, then you're getting someone who obviously his value shoots up.
Mm-hmm. That's why you want to draft now, because as soon as something like that happens, there's 2 drafts to capitalize with it, on a site like Draft before the ADP starts skyrocketing. So you just have to, I think the earlier you draft, the better.
I do agree with that, but then can't we, look at what happened last year with, and I guess it didn't have that much effect because I don't know how many leagues were still open, but with the Le'Veon Bell situation where James Conner, a guy who was probably not even selected on a lot of the early drafts, suddenly was probably the key to making the playoffs a year ago. And, as we drew closer to the season, it became more evident, like maybe this is a possibility. But if you were drafting last May for this, he probably wasn't even picked. It might have been one of the last round flyers.
Mr. Moral Police, what just happened here? Are you throwing us off so we don't take your Tyreek Hill?
Oh, Tyreek Hill. Oh, I was thinking of another guy. I did want Paris Campbell. DB did snipe me. I'll give him that pick.
Mm-hmm. So I see what you go over your team here. We're starting to round out into some good teams here. So it's a little tough. I always like the 8-hour clocks too on the slow draft. You only have 30 seconds here. We're live on air. It's kind of hard to keep track of what's going on here. But let's kind of go over your team here. You had the turn. You can kind of talk about it for a little bit.
Hold on. I don't know if I can on the desktop version. So let me pull it up on the phone where I can click the team and talk about it. But yeah, as far as like high upside guys, Darius Guys, Kerryon Johnson, and Freeman are my 3 running backs. And the wide receivers are Odell Beckham, Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore, N'Keal Harry for New England, and then Hill and DK Metcalf. So those are all my wide receivers, and then Kelsey. And what I'll probably do, not to give away all of the strategy, is I'll probably draft 6 running backs instead of 5 and just hope I hit on one of those remaining 3 for a big volume type of guy.
Yeah, because you need, 1 quarterback scores for you, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, and then a flex. And receivers are very volatile anyway. My typical draft is 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 8 or 9 receivers, and 2 or 3 tight ends is typically how I end up making my teams.
Was there any data that showed what was the most successful last year in terms of positional breakdown?
Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
But not any like certain number of having like 3 quarterbacks versus 2.
So 2 to 3 quarterbacks.
It's like 2.5 is like the number. And the other thing is like, and Bray, you can speak to this more, is that we've got a limited sample size as far as like best ball construction of these rosters. And we're talking about like for draft, is it the 3rd year?
I think the second.
I think
second year.
It is? We sure?
I think so.
Okay. I thought it was the 3rd year. But anyways, I'm pretty sure it's the 3rd year. Regardless, you're talking about
year 1 didn't count. It wasn't good back then. Now it's perfect.
That was good. Anyways,
I think Jamino just made a mistake here. So why didn't you go quarterback here, Jamino?
Because I'm waiting on quarterback until the bitter end. I don't need a quarterback. There's so many quarterbacks. Who am I taking here? Why do I need to take a quarterback then? You could have just taken like 2 of your choice. You could have taken Winston to pair with Howard. You could have tried to figure out some sort of – it's tough, right? We got 30 seconds. I think you could have done something there. You might get some of you're not going to get Winston. He'll go off the board. But you could have done something, I think, to just add a little bit of correlation into your teams here. You don't care. You're just trying to – No.
I agree with late quarterback for sure.
Late quarterback? Like quarterback, you should be like – hanging on to the bitter end. Like you absolutely cannot like overspend on quarterback this season when there's 20, 21, 22 viable guys in fantasy football. This is, I know it's best ball, but it's a 1 quarterback league. Like I just don't believe in taking quarterback. I want to be by far the last person to take a quarterback, and that looks like what I'm going to do here.
All right. You can have fun with your Derek Carr, Andy Dalton combo.
Yeah, we'll see.
I wouldn't wait that long. But I just think you really could have almost always had a 20-point score at quarterback.
If my guy comes back around, I'll talk about it.
I was about to say he's gonna have some decent options coming back.
He will. Oh, it's my turn. I should probably put my water down here. Let's see.
If you don't take a quarterback here, then you suck. Okay. You just
I'm taking my boy Ito for sure. He'll be the last of my.
So you gave Jamino all this guff for not taking a quarterback, and then you pass on a quarterback, Britt.
He had the back-to-back. I think he could have.
So what? He still had a chance to pick in the same round as you.
Listen, maybe I'm trying to guilt him into.
I was about to say, it sounds like there's some next level strategy going on here.
Maybe I have a plan, Britt. What do you think about that?
It's possible. I mean, you are pretty smart. You do a lot of stuff here behind the scenes at RotoGrinders.
I don't have a plan, but what if I did?
Yeah. Let's go after you make your 2 picks here.
I got 2 picks here. Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't we?
Dan, you did snipe me.
Now you only got like 5 seconds to make your pick, though.
I thought Deion Lewis would fall. He did not. Well,
you got better choices than Deion Lewis sitting right in front of you.
Oh, do I?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm just gonna go let the clock expire.
What, you just gonna auto pick?
No, I mean I already put him in the queue, so I'll let that expire. Give me a few extra seconds. Oh man, that was hurtful. And then I'll come back around. And, you know what? I'll actually go with Kyle. Oh no. Oh gosh. All right, forget it. I was gonna pick Kyle Rudolph, but then I remember I got Diggs. Rudolph, I think will sign with Minnesota, be fine this season. But I got Diggs, so I just went with a very, very vanilla Peyton Barber in the 12th.
I like Peyton Barber. I mean,
he's a starting running back. I mean, he's a running back for this team. And if you think Ronald Jones is going to oust Peyton Barber, then just you haven't been paying attention the past 2 years.
Barber is one of my highest known players.
Barber is definitely going to lead you to $1 million. I can guarantee you. There's no doubt in my mind. Peyton Barber is it. Like,
I'm so glad we have this on record.
No doubt.
The how did he do it? You're just going to be the first clip that shows.
That's true. I have been known to mush things a good bit, so you might have that on your side. So you want a quick rundown of my team here, Britt? I'll tell you.
Yeah, let's go for it. I just picked, so we can wait here. Let's take a look at this thing.
Okay, quarterback Mahomes, running backs Montgomery, Jacobs, Tevin Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I got to hold up for everybody. If you can just start talking about them, everyone can see it.
Mahomes, I am actually normally in the camp of waiting for quarterbacks, but it kind of got to that point in the draft where I was either going to take him or I was going to take another position player that I didn't love. And if I didn't love the guy, then I'm going to take maybe the best fantasy quarterback we've seen in the last decade. So Mahomes it is. The running backs, 2 rookies in Montgomery and Jacobs. I mean, they're both going to have, tons of opportunity to be the guy this year. I'm just hoping they, actually turn into it. I actually think Tevin Coleman's kind of sneaky there, out there in San Francisco. I think that offense could be a little bit better. And, we'll see what happens. A lot of competition for carries, but I think he wouldn't have probably gone out there if he didn't think that he was going to have, pretty good opportunity to seize that backfield. Kareem Hunt, hopefully this team is still alive late and, he earned some ability to get on the field after a suspension. And then, of course, wide receiver. I love my wideouts here. Juju, Michael Thomas, Sterling Shepard, going to be the number 1. If you look at what he did when Beckham was out, he was pretty effective. And then I think MVS could have a breakout year this year and loved him where I got him. And everybody knows about Paris Campbell and, his route running likely to match up pretty well with the arm strength of one Andrew Luck. So I like my team. Not going to lie. I like it.
Not bad. Jamino's coming up here. I like just when you draft from the 1 spot. I've done a lot of your teams look so good. And I think Jamino made some good picks along here too. It's very tough, I think, to have a bad because you get the stud running back, then you basically get your pick of another stud running back or a number one wide, a lesser number one wide receiver, and your teams just look so good from the start. I almost want to call right now that whoever wins this will have like Barkley, Zeke, Kamara, or McCaffrey. It's just the teams look so good when you get those.
I'm just loving that this was the first like best ball draft that I did here. So this one's going to be easy to look back and see when I absolutely destroy David Kitchen in it. So it's going to be
I feel a side bet coming on.
I am happy to do any kind of side wager you want, especially looking at your team.
Unbelievable. I mean, Dan, you just heard him. This is his first best ball draft, and all of a sudden he's like Mr. Confident.
Well, he's going to win the $1 million is going to DB.
First team right here. This is it.
I want to talk about Darnold, right? Mm-hmm. Dude comes on at the end of the season. Like, let's not call any of those receivers or any of those receiving options any good. Let's not call that team any good last year. And all he did was play like one of the most efficient quarterbacks down the stretch. And now we're going to see him coming into a season with Le'Veon Bell, whom I'm not really particularly high on, but he's certainly an upgrade over Elijah McGuire, presuming he's anything close to what he was before. And Herndon's going to be a year more experienced. He looked good in the preseason last year, ascended, as the season progressed. And I'm just looking at this offense and thinking this is a guy that's got a chance to definitely be one of those guys that you can pick late at quarterback and just get a complete steal.
Yeah, I just want to tell you that you made a mistake, Jamino, is they both have the same bye week. So now you have to blow a late round pick on another quarterback. Number one, make sure if you're like quarterbacks and tight ends.
I mean, that's a good. I mean, I now I'm looking over right now.
Yes.
What guys I have?
Easy mistake to make.
Yeah. Sure. So I agree. Darnold is way too late in ADP in my opinion. I agree with that. But you got to be careful of those pairings.
Yeah, definitely. That's not something I was looking at here in this draft. It is something that when I do my fantasy drafts closer to the end of the summer, I'm always pretty cognizant of when the bye weeks are. Doing it on my mobile phone here in May wasn't at the top of my mind, but it's a good point.
You're doing it on the app lists it all for you. I almost do everything through the app. You might have not had that on your screen in front of you, but yeah, that's something I'm always cognizant of on my teams, at least at quarterback and at tight end. And I also I try not to make my first like two picks have the same bye. I want my stud players to not be out like the same week, if that makes any sense.
I think it's smart.
I mean, those were definitely two of the quarterbacks available, though. Those were definitely the two best quarterbacks. So, like, I'm definitely not going to kick myself for going ahead and taking the guys I thought were the best. But that is for sure a lesson learned for anyone out there doing draft best ball. Is you for sure don't want to leave yourself too many holes in the bye weeks. Although I'm sure you can survive it. I think I did last year and made the playoffs in a league, but it's not something that's ideal by far.
It's early. Here's what you do. You take a Flacco and Eli Manning, someone that's probably going to start the season, right? And then you got your bye week covered.
I'm not taking anyone from Denver.
Nobody?
I hate Denver.
Dan just took someone from Denver.
I did. Deshaun Hamilton. Yeah.
I like Hamilton. Hamilton is
he's going to get the Silva bump.
This is why this is
the Rex Burkhead Silva bump that he did last year, because Silva's all about Deshaun Hamilton, and I think his ADP is going to keep on creeping up.
This is why I tend to get my running backs a little bit earlier, because if you look at the running back pool now, good luck. Something has to happen for your guy to become relevant. And sure, that's going to happen on a couple of these guys. It's the NFL and running backs get hurt. But the wide receivers, there's like 20 wide receivers I'd want on my team. I can't get enough of these late round wide receivers. So I tend to get my running backs a little bit earlier. It's half PPR, so the running backs also get, a little bit more edge than your typical full PPR, because you're really you're hoping, right? Like if you would take Mike Davis, you're going to hope David Montgomery gets hurt or Tariq Cohen gets hurt. Like you're going to need something like that to happen with basically any running back past, round 14. And wide receivers, there's plenty of wide receivers that still have value.
Yeah. I don't know. You look at some of the top running backs last year, you have to hit like home runs, but James Conner, where was he drafted last year? Where was Philip Lindsay drafted? Derrick Henry. Chris Carson, Nick Chubb even towards the end. Adrian Peterson was a really late round guy. Like Tariq Cohen was at end of the draft type guys. Like I think you can still get. You have to get lucky. I mean, you got to get lucky as far as injuries go, and it's a lot easier to be the top volume guy if you're a running back compared to being the top receiver on a team that's already loaded.
All right, so I want to talk to Jamino. He did something that I typically haven't done too much this year. Is when I get that first pick, I get Saquon. At max, I take 5 running backs. I sometimes even go 4. So what's C.J. Anderson? I understand Edmonds. Edmonds is one of those. If David Johnson gets hurt, he ascends, and he would be around 2 or 3 pick or something like that if something was to happen to David Johnson. So why more running backs when you already have Barkley?
So if you look at the guys I have aside from Barkley, it's not like I'm looking to fire two bullets at that running back spot. You got to have a minimum of 2 every single week. So hopefully Barkley is one of those guys, and every week that he's available. But my other guys were Latavius Murray, Miles Sanders, Austin Eckler. Like I'm just not comfortable with 5 bullets when those are the guys that are paired with him. I didn't do a great job in the draft filling that second slot. So Chase Edmonds and C.J. Anderson are 2 guys that are they're basically one situation away from having a pretty big workload. I'm not thrilled with C.J. Anderson, but at the same time, of the available guys that are left, he's the closest to a number 1 role that you saw it was him last year, right, who did it with the Rams, but there was also some other guys, towards the end of the season where, you were rolling with Baltimore Ravens guys, all these weird guys that you would have never drafted early in the season. I'm just praying he gets a bump of good fortune.
Yep. If you're taking running backs this late, you do need some good fortune. And at some point, or it's somebody, whether it's you, someone in the league is going to get quote unquote lucky with some sort of a pick at some point in the late round. And if you happen to be that guy, where I'm not really taking the late round running backs, so maybe that's a flaw possibly in my game, not mixing in some of them, because at some point someone's going to get lucky.
Isn't that where you would get the best value though, Brett? Isn't that where you would get the best value is a late round running back?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like out of nowhere, right? Like if David Johnson goes down, Jamino just got a top 3 pick in the 15th round or top 3 round pick. And there's skill, but let's not kid ourselves. You have to really run pure. There's got to be a lot of luck on your side to take down the whole thing here, too.
Shocker that DB just took a jag.
I needed to take one.
Honestly, it's a shocker. And he was on my list.
I like him.
He was on my list of
so
guys.
I want to talk about DB taking this here because I think if I had Leonard Fournette, I wouldn't take Raquel Armstead and a thing like this. You don't want to handcuff because you want someone else's backup because it just gives you more options every week to score. Like if Fournette's having a big game, obviously Armstead's not going to have a big game most times out here. So if you had Fournette, I wouldn't be taking Armstead. So I don't know if you were thinking anything like that, DB, but this would be another thing. If I picked Gurley, I wouldn't take Henderson. And if I have Henderson, I wouldn't be reaching for him if I have Gurley because those type of things just don't make a lot of sense. You don't have enough upside in my opinion.
I kind of disagree because of where you're taking these guys at, and you're drawing dead if you have Gurley as your top pick and you don't have his backup or Saquon or one of these top guys. Like if you don't, especially that running back position with how much equity they have, and you don't have a backup, that team is toast. Now, if you're drafting your first running back in round 4 or something like that, I think it's a little bit different story. But, Fournette is a 3rd round back. I don't think you have to draft him, but I don't think I'd categorize it as a bad move if you took Raquel Armstead. I mean, I still think Fournette's going to be fine this year, but it is very much Armstead as the clear backup because Alfred Blue is just awful. So there's some upside in that.
I took Team OTA King Devontae Parker. I can't wait for that to be a pure zero. Once
I almost took him every year. I almost took him. I'm on Team Devontae Parker this year, as I am every year. But
so cheap. I mean, this round, right? Where can you get a guy who could theoretically? Who knows?
Gase had something against Devontae Parker. It's the only reason why I can think he wasn't out there.
I mean, there's a way he's like a top 36 wide receiver this year, right? And you're getting that. Very late.
How many rounds are there, real quick? Just
18.
18. Okay, well, I know what I'm doing the last 2 rounds.
So what you typically want, you want 2 to 3 quarterbacks and 2 to 3 tight ends. You usually want somewhere between 4 to 6 running backs and somewhere between 7 to I would say 9 or 10 wide receivers. If there's people who draft like 4 quarterbacks or 3 tight ends along with 3 quarterbacks. And when you draft 3 quarterbacks, you typically don't want 3 tight ends as well because you don't have enough ammo to make it through bye weeks at some of the other positions. So those are some of the general rules I make. There's a lot of articles around there that kind of go over things like that. But
hey, Britt, I got a question for you. Which quarterback has a good matchup in Week 12?
I do not have Week 12 in front of me.
Oh, come on. I need to know this. I've got Mahomes the first 11 weeks. I just need to know who can do something for me Week 12.
I mean, Mahomes isn't – I mean, it doesn't matter Week 12. You still want – I'd still take a guy who – like Derek Carr has no competition. He has the ability to score for you every week. Your boy Nick Foles is going to play the whole season, barring injury. Or guys like
Camino's boy Nick Foles.
Yeah.
Look what I just did. I just stacked DJ Shark, D.D. Westbrook, and Nick Foles together.
I like Shark. Shark's another guy I like picking late here.
That's gross. I hate that, but that's what I got this time.
But like I'm more off the once it gets to the Mariota, Haskins, Flacco, Manning, right? You need the Aaron Rodgers, you need the Patrick Mahomes to pair with them because those guys might not even play the whole season.
True.
Yeah, I don't know, Dan, if you've done a full analysis of the Jaguars this season, but I just became a mini fan. I'm not real high on them. I don't think they have high expectations. I think they have one of the, I think they might have a pretty decently tough schedule to deal with here as far as, teams with high Vegas win totals. So where are you at with the Jags this season?
Yeah, I mean, they've got a tough schedule this year. They play the Chiefs, they play the Rams, they have the Chargers, and I think all those games are at home, or at least 2 of those games. I know they open up with the Chiefs are at home. So I'm pretty optimistic just because everything that could go wrong last year did go wrong last year for them on the injury front. And that offensive line is going to be impressive, assuming they stay healthy. I mean, people forget they got Andrew Norwell, who was a Pro Bowler last year, and he, ended up getting hurt, and that obviously was a bit of a problem. But overall, I think the Jags can, and I'm not being a homer here, I think they're going to be really competitive in that division. I think it's close, and yes, Indianapolis looks really, really good, but it wouldn't shock me one bit if they, are competing to win the division this year.
Jamino, what's great is we just have 2 homers for their teams who just take horrible players left and right, and it allows us to have like better teams.
Yeah, except for 3 guys.
I would just like to mention that Dan took Marcus Mariota. I don't know if I have any type. He also took Deion Lewis.
I did. You want to trade teams?
No, I like my team. I think it's a good team. I got Trey Quinn in the last round, and I think he is a great pick he's a Washington slot guy, and he could be catching a lot of balls this year. I think his ADP is going to go up a lot higher than the 18th round.
Yeah, I don't hate it. It's just if I told you he was going to score 3.5 touchdowns.
I know you want high upside guys, but he could be catching a lot of balls.
Yeah, I get it. He has the ability to score for you a couple of weeks. Might not be your top scorer, maybe once, but this is another, like, this is why I like the running backs early. There's 20 wide receivers you can pick from here.
Well, I've got 8 wide receivers. I'm not needing on wide receivers. Like, would you have picked John Ross over him?
No. I'm going to take Josh Reynolds as my final pick here. I want to get everyone's thoughts on this. He's someone I'm targeting. Again, there's injuries happen over the course of the season, and I want upside.
Yeah, injuries happened last year, and he didn't do jack.
He was like top wide receiver 3 during the time he played. So I'm getting some injury built into the one of the best offenses in the league, and I don't want to take a slot receiver who's going to catch like 70 balls for 500 yards. I want a guy who in 3 weeks, if he plays, is going to score me some touchdowns.
Josh Reynolds was a top 3 guy.
Wide receiver 3. So like 36, top 36 wide receiver.
After Cooper Kupp went down?
I believe so, yeah. In the weeks he played, I'm pretty sure on that.
It's not going to matter when Goff gets hurt and Bortles is the quarterback week 3.
Yeah. Oh, man. I really hope that happens. You would know exactly where Blake Bortles. I have no clue on that.
When it comes to the way these best balls work, Britt, do you – like I just saw someone took Marquise Lee, who I actually forgot was alive. Yeah. But, would you rather have guys who can have spiked weeks and have, like, big individual games? Or
yes, especially
like Marquise Lee, who are, basically never spiking, or do they?
I took Hakeem Butler and Josh Reynolds as my final 2 picks, right? Guys who, if they're in there, can have, I would imagine, spike weeks.
Both on good offenses as well.
Yes.
Trey Quinn not on a good offense.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for in my late round. Like Mr. Mean Mode, I think he's a pretty good player. Took Brashard Perry. Do I expect Brashard Perryman to have a huge season? But he's going to be in the Tampa Bay offense. He could be the wide receiver 3. Could give you some spike weeks. That's what I'm looking for in my last round wide receiver. So,
hey, Reynolds was wide receiver 73 last year.
Yes. So what about when he played?
That's why I just filtered it.
In the weeks Cooper Kupp was out?
Right.
I don't know if I believe that.
Ooh, calling me out.
All right.
I like it.
Right. Wide receiver 47.
All right, so it's getting up there. A couple of spike weeks. That's fine.
It's like 30 spots off there.
I know. I didn't have the filter set.
All right, so this is fun, you guys. I encourage you to do these early. Do some research. Don't go in blind like Dan and have no shot of winning. Sorry, Dan. But do some research. You can study the NFL. You can replay this back to get some nuggets that we dropped throughout the show. It's a really fun tournament. It is a little tough to win, right? You got to run pure. Somebody's got to win. I'd try to enter a couple more times. I'm probably, if I had to guess, maybe 20 entries, something like this into that. Dan mentioned too, there's a good likelihood they might run something a little cheaper if 25's a lot. And if you're a big baller and you really want to play for a lot of money, it's somewhat likely that they're probably going to have a higher buy-in one like they did last year too. So keep your eye out on those. It's a really fun format. And before you jump into the 25s, you can play $1 slow drafts. They have those 12 mans as sort of practice. I've been playing a bunch of those and can kind of help you get ready and get a feel for it. If you've never played on draft, helps you learn the software and everything. So I think that's going to wrap up the show. I don't know if we need to analyze any of these teams. And anyone have any final thoughts?
I'm going to make up. If I don't win the million with this, I'll make up the entry fee at least with a bet versus DB.
All right. You can get that off. You want to do it on air? What do you guys got? Come up with something.
Let's do the entry fee. Let's just do the entry fee.
Oh, the entry fee, $25?
$25.
That's it?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to bet,
I'm in on this one too. Top finish, you and Jamino?
Okay, Jamino, top finish between the 4 of us.
It's $100.
Fine. $100.
All right.
He's not going to back down. Yeah. Just to let people know as well, we're going to be doing these videos for NFL about once a month, and then once we get closer, we'll probably be doing about 2 or 3 a month of these drafts. So definitely a lot more of this, and kudos to Draft for asking us to be doing these things. So it's a lot of fun.
You can also go to Fantasy Insiders, and Josh ADHD has a great tool as far as you can see all of the ADP, where people are, the rise and fall of players. It's great.
All right, we're going to get on out of here. Thanks to Draft for hooking us up with these shows. Really fun product, and I encourage all you to do it. Thanks to everyone for watching, and we out ya.